Just ahead on American Black Journal, our roundtable guests are back to take on the latest headlines. We're going to talk about the impeachment inquiry against President Trump, the facial recognition software used by Detroit police, and the Dallas police officer convicted of murdering her unarmed neighbor. American Black Journal starts now.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Ally, Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. We have invited our roundtable panel back to weigh in on some recent headlines and their impact on the African American community. We're going to look at the impeachment inquiry in Washington and President Trump's reaction to the Democrats' investigation, plus the controversy over facial recognition software. Police say it solves crimes, but critics say it misidentifies African Americans. And we're going to talk about former Dallas police officer Amber Guyger's conviction and sentence for murdering her unarmed black neighbor. But let's start with the impeachment probe. In Washington, President Trump has denounced the Democrats' investigation that was prompted by a whistleblower's complaint about his dealings with Ukraine. Let's bring in my roundtable guests. Kim Trent, Senior Vice President at Compass Strategies, Public Relations and Political Consultant Greg Bowens, Kerry Jackson, the urban conservative on Detroit's 910 AM Superstation, and political commentator and columnist Brandon Brice. I'm going to start with this side of the aisle because I feel like y'all have a lot to answer for with regard to this president.
Good luck.
You know, there are a lot of Republicans who say, look, there's nothing to see here. Move along. Where do you guys stand?
So a couple of things. One, I think the conversation with the Ukraine president is damaging. Mm-hmm. The challenge is now, how is the Republican Senate going to react to it? Are they going to be concerned about their districts when they get back home? Or are they going to be focused on, well, if the president is by some chance reelected, is that going to be a relationship that I can solve it? One of the challenges I think with impeachment that we're seeing now, there's a lot of people who, despite what has been said, his base is still saying we stand with the president.
Yeah. So, you know, black people get criticized all the time for standing by Democrats no matter what happens. I have never seen Democrats stick by somebody who's done the things that this president has done for 3 years, and now he's on the phone with a foreign leader saying, hey, interfere in our elections, please. What will it take for them to say that's enough?
It's not going to happen. They're still going to support him, and if you get them riled up enough, they will take themselves and all of their friends, and he'll get reelected.
You think so?
I think so. And the truth is that even though there might be over 30 Republican senators who secretly hope and pray that something happens to Donald Trump, they will never publicly vote to remove that man for office because they're scared. Huh. He fills arenas, whether he pays those people to fill the arenas or not. But the truth is, he still fills arenas. People stand in line for him, and there is still they foam at the mouth. They are that much in love with their president, and nothing you do. And nothing really, they could care less that he breaks the law. They could care less that he cusses, that he cheats on his wife. All they know is they'll tell you this, we've got a good economy, and that's all I care about.
So as somebody who identifies as a conservative, does this make you less likely to identify that way? At what point does Kerry Leon Jackson say enough?
Kerry Leon Jackson gets called out by Trump supporters on a daily basis because I'm not a Trump supporter.
Right. But does it make you a Republican? Does it make you say, I'm not a Republican?
No, some of the things, the fact that my party has now been invaded by racists who feel like they have the ability to openly say whatever they want to, and that they think that they're going to drive blacks back 50 years ago, that's one of the things that makes me say I don't really want to go to the party. Yeah. I'm not going to go out and be an active part of the party. I'm not going to any of their events or anything. But the truth is, the foundational reasons that drove me to the party are still there, and I still believe that.
You know, Stephen, real quick, I think this is a time where the party, the GOP, has to really say, this may be the opportunity that we have to right the wrong and clean house. Right. I think one of the challenges you're having is, you know, we've lost a whole lot of folks, specifically minorities and women. Right. But on the flip side of that, you know, Trump, he's been able to, whether you like the guy or not, literally create a new base that did not vote in previous elections.
Yeah. All right, so
I never
you buying any of this? I'm not.
It's baloney.
I never thought, I mean, pretty much my entire adult life, the Republican Party has been saying that they're going to try to be more of a big tent party, that they were going to be more inclusive, that they were going to be more embracive of different kinds of people. And then they elected Donald Trump. And then they let Donald Trump be Donald Trump.
America
and Donald
Trump.
But you're doubling down on Donald Trump. And you have senators who, like Lindsey Graham.
They're doubling
Go
down
back and
on
read
winning.
Lindsey Graham's thoughts on Donald Trump from 2016 and read what Lindsey Graham thinks about Donald Trump in 2000. Yeah, he changed his tune because of political expediency.
Right. The party cares more about winning than about whether or not.
But
that's what's happening. That seems to be contagious in your party these days.
And you know, the
your party doesn't win a lot, so we don't really have to worry about it being contagious.
One might argue that 3 million more votes in 2016
Republicans have won
be seen,
two elections, two popular presidential elections in the last 20 years.
Hello, somebody.
And that's, I mean, and eventually that's going to catch
we run
up,
the state legislature right here in Michigan.
But you know what's interesting?
That's about gerrymandering.
You did not win.
Yeah.
And what party is the governor? Thank you very much.
The governor can't get anything passed right now because she's got to deal with the Republican legislature.
I really want to know what you think.
After y'all got checkmated this week? Okay.
Hold on. Let's get Greg in here.
I'm just here for the ride.
He's just watching.
It's like being in a car with your friend.
What is it going to take for Republicans to say that's enough? And do they have a chance to maybe get more African American votes at some point by standing up to this idea of, you know, racist rhetoric and the foolishness?
You know, fame, I'm just going to say this, fame is a fickle lover, you know, that can hug you one day and smack you the next day. And when it comes to Donald Trump, who's built his entire public persona on fame through TV and the stuff he was doing in New York and all that stuff, it's going to, I think, turn on him. The one thing that I think is that we're not really sort of hitting on here is that Donald Trump has been sort of lording over the Republicans party and the Republicans in the Senate through fear and intimidation since the day he walked in the door. And for any senator that would get into his sights, you know, he would basically beat him up as a public execution for everybody else. Well, should charges come about and actually make it to the Senate for a trial, now the individual senators are like, okay, so you've been messing with me since day one, Trump.
Maybe it's your turn.
Now I got something on you. Now we can
something publicly. It's never going to happen.
But I'm just saying in terms of if it comes down.
I don't know, because if you look at the poll numbers, America is moving toward being very comfortable with saying goodbye. America is exhausted. And it's not just Democrats.
Right.
Independents are exhausted, and actually a lot of Republicans
are exhausted.
Republicans
are tired.
But you know,
they still go with.
I think when you're seeing these huge coliseums with these people who are
half filled.
First of all, people are being paid. Second of all, third of all, a lot of times people are buying tickets and not even showing up. So let's just be honest about what's really happening.
So I think that
We gotta go quickly to
no, I was just
your
going
point
to
so that we
say
can go
I
on
think
to the
that
next
we
subject.
may be surprised should the charges make it there, and I think even in the House. I'm not convinced that all of the Republicans in the House
think you're gonna see a lot of Republicans
are hanging
come
with
over.
Trump.
That's right.
And
Once
remember,
the facts come out.
who was the guy that Biden came here and campaigned for, the Republican congressman?
Fred Upton.
Yeah.
Fred Upton, right? Who voted for the investigation and all that stuff. Well, Fred Upton and Biden were tight.
Yeah.
And they were tight. So tight that he came here and campaigned for him, and we all got mad, as Democrats.
So we'll see
your
what that-
boy gets jammed up by the president.
Yeah.
Who's trying to like jam him up with the Ukraine? What do you think is going to happen?
All right. We would do this all day, but we got to get to some other topics. Turning now to the Detroit Police Department's use of controversial facial recognition technology to identify suspects. Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib made national headlines by suggesting only African-American analysts should run the software because, in her words, non-African Americans think African Americans all look the same. But Chief James Craig says there's a process in place that prevents abuse and misidentification. What do we think about that?
So here's the issue. I mean, you can be on Facebook and they can get your facial recognition wrong. And so
Right.
now we're talking about things that can actually deter you or send you to prison or
Right.
jail.
Right.
I don't think we're at a place where that system is actually working, and I think it's going to be even more damaging to African Americans.
Let's not admit, the system that was bought by the city of Detroit is the one that does not work. I've seen facial recognition from a client that I represented about 10 years ago. Facial recognition works. He had an outstanding warrant. He decided to go to the Super Bowl where they use the stuff that really does work. And while he's walking down the
Picked him
street,
up.
the computer did all of his facial, and the cops went right over and said, "Your name is, you've got a warrant. Come go with us."
Took him out of the Super Bowl.
How reliable is that technology, Kerry?
So the
The
question
technology is enough to say if you've got an outstanding warrant, or if they've got a face of the person that did a shooting on 7 Mile, and that person happens to be at a gas station over on Gratiot, and the computer will be able to say, we've got a 50 or 60% confidence in this is who the
But the
person
question
is.
that-
They're going to send a car over,
But the question
and the
that
car is
she's-
going to go check that person
So
out.
the
This is
question that she's
Minority
raising,
Report all over again,
the question
Stephen.
that she's raising, though, is about the human input, right? The analysts who decide this is a match for that person. And, white people, look, white
Think we
people
all look alike?
sometimes-
They all look alike?
Now, to be fair, sometimes I have a hard
a lot of
time.
them look alike
I was
as
gonna say,
well.
to be fair, I have a hard time distinguishing white faces sometimes too. But that is it's a cultural bias that everybody has.
Yeah.
So I think she's right to raise the issue. I don't know, can you say that only black people are going to run the software? That seems maybe extreme and probably against federal law.
I think until the software is perfected, we probably shouldn't even have it.
Yeah.
So, I really agree with the activists who say we're not there yet.
Right.
And I don't know what the rush is. I think that, the way that technology is advancing these days, where there's a multiplier effect, and within months things are getting more and more exact. I don't know why we have to go with technology that's not perfect.
There are
the thing.
two
Can I just say-
two things on this.
Go ahead.
Yes, you can say after I finish.
Okay.
Let's give Greg a chance.
Right.
Two things. One is that when she said that, she must have been looking around and seeing only white people, operating the system. And so raising the issue of whether or not black folks are included in this is a valid thing, particularly in light of the hiring practices of the Detroit Police Department, all the racial stuff that has gone on. And I'm sure that the chief is doing the best that he can. His desire to stand up for his officers, I think, should not trump the reality of racial biases on the part of people. It would be more responsible
talking about
of
the
him
racial biases.
to
Here's the thing:
address
the
that.
computer's going to pick out points on your face, your eyebrows, and things like that. It still is up to a human being to go find that says.
And that's
this
where the bias
person-
comes
Right,
in.
and that's where
that
the
person
bias
is the one
comes
that's
in.
supposed to go
Right.
and say, "Are you this person? Come here. I need to talk to you."
Well,
But
you
do you
just said
think
the
that,
Super Bowl
do you
example,
think
they
that
didn't say,
white
"Are you the
people
person?"
think that they can distinguish among black people as well as black people?
They're going to have a person go see that person.
That seems
Somebody's
unlikely.
going to check them out.
I need you guys-
Just
But
from
in
my
terms of your
experience as a
question,
50-year-old
what's the
black woman in
rush?
America.
The rush is, if we don't,
Get out of here.
when you ask,
I know I don't look
We're
it,
both
but-
50.
when your
Listen,
question asks
listen.
what's the rush, the rush is we don't have the number of officers on the street. We used to have 4 times as many officers
Right.
as we have
Absolutely.
now. So there's got
So
to
you
be
need this
something to help.
technology?
The technology is supposed to support the fact that you can't have that many eyes. Why not let the computer, since there's going to be a camera on every corner, why not let the computer look for those people that you're looking for
I think if
now?
the system were perfect already, right?
Well, why not have-
Nothing's ever going to be
If we
perfect.
didn't
Just put a
have
chip in
bias
people and you'd
in
be
the
solved.
system,
Nothing's ever going to be perfect, but why not at least? The
That's
truth of the matter is there are going to be some victories that you're going to find out about somebody who was wanted and that
But what
person
can be
got
the
picked up.
objection to having someone of that racial or ethnic group being the person who's determining whether there's a match?
You
Well,
can't
'cause that
put
means the
in
white guy
policy.
I know you
doesn't get a
can't put it in
job.
policy.
You can't put it in
That's
policy,
why.
but what you're saying is you don't trust the chief and his command staff in order to be able to figure out how to staff their department. That's his job as chief, and that's why he has hired
Well, what
a
about the
lot
next
of
chief?
African American women that have been promoted like crazy. Let's trust them to at least try to get to
Yeah,
that
but
point.
the-
If it picks out the
Counselor, take
wrong
a break.
person,
How many
if it
qualified-
picks
how
out the
many
wrong
qualified
person,
Hold on
we'll
here.
find
There,
out
there,
later.
able to work those
there was
jobs.
you folks might remember the situation where the brother in Grosse Pointe got raided by the SWAT team because it was all over TV. This picture of a tall brother robbing a bank, right? Well, walking in the door saying he robbed the bank.
Right.
You know, we all looked at that picture and we were like, you know, white folks was like, well, that looks like him. And we were all like, that ain't him. They got the wrong guy. You know, and to this day, that was like a couple years ago.
Right.
Even though they arrested him and then let him go, they still have not cleared him of it. So he's got this thing hanging out over his head. And that was a picture that we were all looking at. So,
Sketch art.
you know,
That's it.
I think that
Unless you're
we got
going
to be
strive to pay a
careful
lot
with
more
that.
taxes and allow them to hire 4 times as many officers, you're going to have to come up with
I don't
some
know
sort of
the,
way.
the,
That
the,
doesn't make it right.
I don't know the choices
Aren't you a defense
between.
attorney?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I don't want him.
Seems like the choice
Get
has
the
to
guy
be.
that opposes government.
The choice has to be about something better than nothing or bias, right? I mean,
Right.
the idea that there's
The
no
choice
question we don't
is-
have enough
The
officers.
choice is
but,
we've got to at least decide to do something to support the officers that are out there and to try and find the criminals, because the same people are the ones who keep committing the same crimes in the community over and over and over again.
Yeah.
I
So
think- I think
my
we
solution to
trust the
this is I'm just gonna wear a ski mask everywhere. You can't identify
But you'll
me
have
from
glasses
nobody. They'll be like, that's Steven.
Actually, Stephen, in certain European countries, they do have masks, facial recognition masks
oh, really?
that you can put over.
See?
So hey,
Now I get
maybe
going.
that's your solution.
Let's bring them to Detroit.
All right.
Well, you know, when you get
Finally,
your eyebrows done, man.
There you go.
Have a point.
Fake mustache.
finally, we want to talk about former Dallas police officer Amber Guyger, who was sentenced to 10 years in prison for the murder of her unarmed black neighbor, Botham Jean. Guyger, who is white, says she mistakenly entered Jean's apartment and shot him, believing he was a burglar. But testimony revealed that Guyger had shared racist texts and social media posts in the past. Prosecutors wanted a stiffer sentence. However, Jean's brother forgave Guyger and hugged her in court. I was as stunned as anybody to see this moment in court. There was a part of me that said, wow, that is really moving. That is really what you want to be, I guess, as a person. At the same time, I was mad that 10 years for this kind of murder, and I just don't believe that the story here that you walk into someone else's apartment and shoot them dead.
I mean, the whole thing is horrific. And, I think I saw a lot of anger about the sentence. I think the sentence is hard to understand, the amount of time that she got. I'm not an attorney, but it doesn't seem to jibe with what I know about murder cases. I mean, I don't know many people who get 10-year sentences for walking. I just can't imagine a situation where the opposite had happened, where a white woman had been sitting in her apartment and a black man had accidentally walked into the wrong apartment and shot her dead. that he would have gotten 10 years. It just, that's just unfathomable to me.
I think the
I can't
problem is
imagine
we're
that.
all trying to correct years of racial inequality on one case.
Well, that happens a lot, right?
Her jury that was made up of 8 men, the other rest were women, and 5 of them were African Americans.
5 of the jurors.
They chose the 10 years. They chose to convict her of murder, and they chose the 10 years, which is basically a manslaughter sentence. When you've got the people that were actually sitting in the room who made that decision, and her members of her family, there was a lot of emotion in that courtroom. That's one case. Why don't we accept the fact that that's one case, and then we work on trying to correct all
And
of
I
the
agree.
things?
I saw a lot of chatter where people were angry at the brother for hugging her, which I thought was absurd because I've never walked in those shoes.
Yeah, right.
Thank God. And I would say that no one can tell the family of a murder victim how he or she
should act.
should
Should
grieve
feel or deal with it.
or should deal with their grief. And so I think it's absurd
Stephen,
to
even when you have
say that.
cases of forgiveness, that's typically 10 to 20 years later. But we're talking about the brother literally was just killed this year.
Right.
And so now I think, but there's something more deeper in this conversation of, to me, the story still does not sit right because even if you say, well, maybe it was an accident, most people just don't start blasting folks.
Maybe it
neighbors.
happened.
Well,
I mean, someone who's a trained officer.
Exactly.
I mean, it
She's a
seems like
police
she's a
officer.
trained police
So
officer. It seems like you would have a
The
little
problem
bit-
is that's what they train them to do now. They train you
Shoot
to
first.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
They no longer are training you to try and talk to them, any of the
investigate.
other stuff.
Like,
They
look at the
scare
red.
you.
Right. Notice my shingles
Notice
are
it's
not
not
the
your
right
furniture.
fit.
Notice it's not your TV.
But Kerry-
They train them, so they leave the academy scared, which is why we had the case in Pennsylvania that
That's
happened
right.
the other
That's right.
because when they leave there, they leave figuring
Scared.
that everybody out here
Is
is a
out to
threat,
get you.
and you've got to shoot as soon as
And
you
you'll
can.
be killed
But
if you
is
don't.
there-
act.
Hold on,
Kerry,
but
I
is-
think I think this is important. I don't think that we could just leave this one here, because every time something like this happens, they happen in isolation and they happen around the country. And so we see the conviction for the white woman, and then we see the conviction for the black woman of a lesser crime. And with social media, we see these two things side by side. And so we need to have confidence in our justice system.
I agree.
And we need to be able to address the inequities plainly. Even though she got a hug from the brother, I'm happy for it. Jesus loves you, and I want you to turn to Christ.
You're not going to address the inequities
You know.
by giving her more time. What you need to do is to give the black people less time.
Right.
Well,
Because-
We need to make the
but how do
system
we,
fair.
Then how do we get to that conversation?
We
Right.
get to that conversation by making sure that we've got judges and prosecutors who actually care more about the system and about fairness than they do about pushing people.
I don't
right
know.
through the
Somebody,
system.
a judge in Alabama,
wait,
gonna be like, "Yeah, I saw her getting that hug."
Could we even further surmise that perhaps this cop may have known her neighbor? Maybe this
Yeah,
was
you
a secret
were- I
love
guess you
affair.
were talking
I
about
said
this
that.
before.
This looked like a passion crime.
But would that suggest?
Absolutely no evidence of
know,
that.
this is
That's what
For somebody
But I
to
guess-
just randomly shoot their neighbor.
But so-
Going into the pizza
so for
parlor now,
you-
folks.
But for you, does that make it better?
Down the rabbit hole.
Like, does that make the crime better, or does that make the crime worse?
The crime
If-
is a crime. We have an innocent black man dead, and a cop who claims she walked in the wrong apartment. I mean, that
Right.
soun's crazy.
Well, I saw.
So you're trying to say she walked in the wrong apartment
On purpose.
that
She
day?
walked at the wrong time.
At the wrong time.
You know, hey.
While she was texting her married lover, telling
right.
him she was horny and she needed
Side
to see
chick
him
with a
right
pistol. Bad thing.
Really?
So now, do you think, Kerry, this is a just sentence, and that more
guys got
sentences
degrees.
might
One
take this into?
I think that one case is what happened in that courtroom was supposed to happen in that one case.
Yeah.
Well,
I think that the jurors who heard the facts made up their mind that she should not wind up getting 99 years, or even I thought that hopefully she would have gotten 20, but they decided 10. I'm not gonna. If the range is 5 to 99 and you leave it up to the jurors to decide, the jurors decided 10 was fair. I think in that case it was fair. I think in the other cases, another Texas court that gave a man 99 years last week because he kicked a cop. is not fair.
Maybe-
Well,
and
they
giving
have-
somebody
and
45
when you-
years for shooting a dog is not
Exactly.
fair.
And when you
need to
see
learn to
these-
give black folks fair sentences.
When
Correct.
you see these inequities, you transfer them to other situations.
Correct.
So we had the whole education thing, right? And movie stars and rich people who like bilk the system and bribe people to get their kids.
weeds.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They how they get punished compared to somebody who wanted to send their kid to another district,
get years.
and they get
Maybe
years.
we have a trust in the police department. Maybe that was a factor. She's
Oh,
law
no, there's no
enforcement.
doubt about it.
Police
No, there's
get
no
law
doubt about
enforcement.
that.
Treated differently
Right.
in the system.
Correct.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
good job not fighting each other. Now that we don't have a table, I was worried maybe somebody
wanted to
jump out of their
bang on the
chair and hit somebody else. Also, congrats. We have done this more often this year than we have in past years. And that's what I said we would do in January.
We need to take this on the road.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for being here.
Oh,
guys.
good up, Wednesday.
That's our program for today. Go to AmericanBlackJournal.org for more information on our guests and to check out past episodes. And you can always connect with us on Facebook and on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Masco Corporation is proud to manufacture innovative and environmentally friendly products for the home. Delta faucets, craft-made in Merillat cabinets, and Behr brand paints have all been designed with you in mind. Masco and its family of companies, serving Michigan communities since 1929.
Support also provided by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, a partner with communities where children come first. The Cynthia and Etzel Ford Fund for Journalism at Detroit Public TV.
The DTE Foundation proudly supports 50 years of American Black Journal in covering African American history, culture, and politics. The DTE Foundation and American Black Journal, partners in presenting African American perspectives about our communities and in our world.
Also brought to you by Ally, Nissan Foundation, and viewers like you. Thank you.